Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget. All right, well, Karlie Cummins, thank you so much for joining me today. We're in Bali, of all places, Bali, Indonesia, and Karlie Cummins, she's originally from Australia, and she moved there approximately 5 years ago and started an online magazine called Bali Buddies, BALIBUDDIES.com. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that talks a lot about what you can do in and around Bali, like eat, drink, stay, where to play. It's a phenomenal resource. So check it out at balibuddies.com. So thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
This
Nice
is
daytime for me, nighttime for you.
right. Exactly. It's late here. It's like 9:30. Well, not late, but and it's early in the morning for you. But so tell me, so how did you, Bali is one of the destinations I've never been to before. I'd love to go there because of all of the stunning pictures. I love meditation. I've done some yoga, but I'd love to just go there and meditate for long periods. It's just absolutely gorgeous there. How did you discover Bali, and how did you land in Bali?
So for Australians, Bali is usually an Aussie's first overseas holiday. Geographically, the Australians and the Balinese get along really well, and it's also it's a cheap holiday for Aussies to come over to Bali. Like, your money stretches a lot further than where it would in Australia. So I started traveling to Bali in my teenage years, and it's a place I kept returning to. And then my husband, when I met him, had also been traveling to Bali for years, and so we continued our trips through we had our honeymoon here, and when we had our kids, we kept bringing them back. And that was it was the type of place where we always wanted to return to, and it was not uncommon for us to come 2 or 3 times a year from Australia to Bali.
Gotcha. How long of a flight is it from Australia?
It depends where you fly from. Say you're flying from Darwin, it's as short as 2 hours. From Queensland, where we lived, it was about 5.5, 6 hours, depending where we departed from.
So that's a pretty good lengthy flight. What is the cost? Is it expensive? Is it fairly cheap to?
No, well, back when the flights were easily accessible, not like now, really cheap. In fact, cheaper for us often to fly to Bali than it would be domestically within Australia. So we would quite often fly from Brisbane in Queensland, Australia, to Bali for around 400 Australian dollars return, which is about say around 300 American dollars return.
Okay, so it's really reasonable.
Yeah,
very reasonable. Yeah. Do you get an opportunity to go home very often, or?
Pre-COVID, I would go home probably 3 times a year. During COVID, I haven't been home now in nearly 2 years because Australia's borders are shut, and so all of the airlines have stopped flying there for the moment. And if we did go back there, then we have to do a hotel quarantine for 2 weeks at $3,000 per person. So,
oh wow, okay.
The call to go back there when we've been here is we'll just.
Wow. So, okay. So you've been there for approximately 5 years in Bali. It's one of the most, in my opinion, most beautiful places on planet Earth. And so many people go out there for a lot of these wellness retreats, meditation, yoga. It's known for a lot of that. Beautiful cliffs, waterfalls, ocean that's crystal clear. How do you describe it, and what are some of the highlights for you? What do you tell your friends when they ask you about this place that you live in? What is the things that you share with them?
So for starters, it's I used to work as a travel agent, and I used to do travel seminars on Bali. And one of the first things I always say to people is, you can have whatever type of experience you want in Bali, but it's important to find the right area of Bali to match what you're looking for. So if you're looking to come over here and party and shop, there's an area for that. If you're looking to come over here and have a really spiritual experience with yoga and meditation, there's an area for that. If you're just looking for a all-inclusive hotel that's got kids club and you barely have to leave and you can just relax, there's a place for that. If you want to go off on adventures and do things out in nature and treks and hikes and things, there's a place for that, and surfing. But Bali is often a lot bigger than what people, it's a small island, but it's a lot bigger and it takes a lot more time to get around than sometimes people give it credit for. So they think that they can come here and just like stay in one area and do everything. But it's really important to do your research into what you're expecting your holiday to look like to choose the right areas to suit you.
Okay. Do you help people? Do you help people match them up with some of the things that they want to do? Do you assist in that area?
Yeah, people ask us advice all the time, and we've got on our website, we've got a whole breakdown. In fact, if you Google areas of Bali, I think our page comes up first, where we've got a big breakdown of all the areas of Bali and what to expect in each, what the vibes like, what the best things to do are there, and that kind of helps you plan where you want to go, depending on what you want.
Yeah. So, what do you guys, what are you into? Your family, your
So
kids, and you.
we live in an area called Sanur, and Sanur is on the east side of Bali. There's a lot of expatriates who live here, and it's mostly families or retirees, expatriates here. That's kind of the Sanur area. In fact, the other side of the island over in Canggu, where there's also a lot of expats and there's a lot of younger ones. They call Sanur Sanur because there's not much partying that goes on over this side of the island.
Yeah.
But we really love it because our area's got like a very long pathway along the beach. So for our kids, they've got 8 kilometers to really safely ride their bikes back and forth along there without any roads. It's still very much a village vibe here. We ride bicycles around everywhere. We get the sunrise, we don't get the sunset. So for living, for me with a family, I wouldn't consider living anywhere else on the island. But I love different parts of the islands for different things. Like over in Canggu and Seminyak, they've got some of the, funkiest venues to eat at, or beach clubs to visit, and all the good fashion shopping and things like that. So I love over that side for that. I love going to Ubud or Cedarman for the rice fields and that more connecting back to nature sort of area. Then there's another place above called Munduk where it's actually cold. So if we want to go up and sit by a fire for the night, and be in the cold weather, we go up to Munduk. And then of course, if you go all the way up to North Bali, that's Bali 30 years ago. There's really not as much westernization that's gone on in the north of Bali. So it's still very much villagey, and you don't see any of the big stores or the McDonald's or anything like that up there.
Mm-hmm. So that sounds like my type of place.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got all the beautiful islands that, like tomorrow, we're off to Lembongan Island, which is just a 30-minute boat ride from where we live in Sanur. And over there, there's no cars. Like, you can ride a motorbike or you can ride a bicycle.
What's the name of the island?
That's called Nusa Lembongan Island.
Okay.
And the water there is like super stunning and beautiful. There's great snorkeling and diving, stand-up paddleboarding and things like that to do over there.
Okay, now you're starting to brag.
We are very lucky.
Are you guys like licensed scuba divers? Are you certified?
Actually, my eldest daughter and I are just finishing. We're halfway through our open water licenses, so we're finishing that off next weekend.
Nice. That is so sweet. Yeah, I just, the water is so crystal clear over there, so the diving's just got to be spectacular.
Yeah, well, Indonesia is known for some of the best diving sites in the world. Bali's got some great ones, but then you travel a bit further in Indonesia to like Flores and Raja Ampat, and they're like super famous in the diving communities.
Mm-hmm. And those are easily accessible by boat?
Yeah, from Bali you fly to those places, but they're easily accessible. They're very cheap domestic flights and easy, quick quick
Yeah.
flights.
But you're going to an island tomorrow on a boat, right? On a ferry?
Yes. So the closest islands to go to on a boat is Nusa Lembongan. There's three islands. There's Nusa Lembongan, Nusa Chanigan, and Nusa Penida. They're all really close to each other. And they're just a 30-minute boat ride away from Bali. And then there's the Gili Islands, which are very famous. They're an hour and a half boat ride away, and they're closer to the island of Lombok, which is a really big island, but the Gili Islands are really, really, really small, and there's not even motorbikes on those islands. There's three Gili Islands, and you just bicycle everywhere around there, and we love going to the Gili Islands also.
And you can find those islands on your website at Bali
Yeah,
Buddies.
yeah. We've still got them all in the areas of Bali. We include all of those close islands around, and we even do features on other areas of Indonesia. We did a feature earlier this year on Sumba, which is another island in Indonesia, and it was my first time to Sumba, and wow, the nature there was probably the most spectacular I've ever seen in my life anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's at the moment Sumba is pretty much completely untouched. Like there's besides a few resorts, there's very little westernization there.
Wow. What kind of wildlife do you see when you're out there?
When you're in Sumba, Sumba was crazy. There was buffalo, and there's wild horses, and there's lots of cats and dogs and things like that. There's beautiful birds around everywhere. Even Bali has lots of birds. We have a lot of monkeys, and at the moment, because the tourists have been away, the monkeys have been like showing up in places where we had not seen monkeys before.
Yeah.
They're kind of getting more brave and coming closer to everyone now. But there's lots of monkeys. What else do we have
I
in?
love monkeys.
Last year, funny story. Last year we were staying at a villa down in Nusa Dua, and my children were inside the villa doing their online school, and I was outside doing some yoga. And I heard my youngest going, "Mom, Mom," in this really weird tone. So I stopped my yoga and walked in, and she looked at me and I looked at her, and there's this massive monkey that had made its way in to the villa. And then I saw it had something in its hands, and it went running outside, and I thought, oh no, it's stolen my phone.
Uh-oh.
So I took it outside. It went straight up the tree, but it turned out it had taken my box of toothpaste, and it just opened the box, squeezed out all the toothpaste into its mouth, and basically like threw it back.
Well, that's better than an iPhone.
Was better. But then my daughter like started crying, and she's like, I was so scared.
Yeah. Well, are they aggressive at times? The monkeys?
They're not aggressive, but to look at, they can be scary. If you're really up close and personal with one, like some of them have really big teeth, but they don't really attack you. But they do, if you've got food and water, they do want that.
Yeah, I was in the Amazon a few years ago, and there was this area. I took a boat down to this area where there were a bunch of monkeys, and we just got off, and they were all over in the trees and everywhere, and you could come down, and they're very mischievous, and some of them were red, some of them were brown, some of them were really. It was just such a variety of different types of monkeys in the Amazon. Is it the same way in Bali?
No, there's only a couple of different types of monkeys here. But they're so human, like, the way they almost communicate with you.
Yeah. Do they have any sloth there?
No, I don't think.
No sloth? Do you know what a
No.
sloth? The sloth are the ones
Yeah,
big
but
claws.
I don't think they're here.
Oh, okay. How about kangaroo?
No.
No.
They're Australian.
Australia just claims them to themselves. That's it.
Well, they're a native Australian animal.
You don't know if some came over on the boat. I don't know. I've never been to Bali.
Yeah, I definitely think somebody would have smuggled some through somewhere, but yeah, they're everywhere in Australia.
Yeah. Okay.
But here we have lots of dolphins too, which is really nice. Like it's not strange to spot dolphins around, and then sometimes whales as well.
Yeah. So let's talk like the cost of food, of lodging, of finding. So I imagine it's in Asia, so things are incredibly affordable. But Bali is on the map. But people know about Bali, so of all the places in Asia, that's going to be, probably more expensive than places like Cambodia or Vietnam, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
But
Bali is definitely more expensive than Cambodia or Vietnam, but as compared to, say, Australia, it's incredibly affordable. So do you want to talk like living or holidaying or a bit of both?
let's start with, like, if somebody wanted to go and just hang out in Bali and rent an apartment.
Yes.
Let's say a couple or somebody that's solo heads over and they're looking for a place that's comfortable. Um, Now, I used to live in New York City. I mean, a 400 square foot apartment is big. That's a large apartment, right? So, um, something that's comfortable that maybe you can walk. I love to not have to use any vehicle when I'm somewhere. I like to jump on a bike or just be able to walk everywhere. Walk to the
Yeah.
beach, walk to the cafe, walk to the grocery store. So what can you find a flat for, and what are the costs? And for like electric and utilities, water, what's a cell phone cost in Bali? Those kinds of things.
So I'll give you an example of where we live in Sanua, which is quite a popular area. We only live a couple of 100 meters from the beach, and I actually don't ride a motorbike here or drive a car. When I'm in Sanua, in my local area, I either walk or ride a bicycle everywhere. And then if I want to go further or far, I have a driver that I use, or I use an online app like Uber, but we have them here called Grab and Gojek, which is incredibly cheap compared to what we pay for Uber and taxi, say in Australia. Really, really, really cheap here. Sometimes less than $1 to get around. So if I'm going further or far, I will use that for transport. But in my local area, it's walking or riding bicycle. And an example, a really good example, is right next door to our villa. So they have in Bali what's called homestays, which usually means it's owned by a local, and they've built, most homestays have, say, 4 or 5 rooms that they rent out separately. And there's often a shared pool, and there might be a shared kitchen facility. There's a really nice one next door to us, so close to the beach. And at the moment, I had a look for one of my interns the other day. It's renting for 3 million rupiah a month, which is about 200 and maybe 200, maybe 210 USD.
Okay. And that's how big is it?
So that's, I don't know in square feet, but it's like a room. So it's not like an apartment, but it's a decent sized room with your own bathroom and toilet.
Gotcha.
And then you have the shared pool, the shared living area, and the shared cooking facilities. If you wanted, say, a private villa of your own, where you have your own kitchen, your own lounge room, say a bedroom and a small pool, and you want to be close to the beach, you're probably looking at around maybe say 500 USD a month, once again depending on areas. And then you can go right up into super flash luxurious, see it on MTV Cribs type of villas where you're paying a couple of thousand.
Yeah, sure.
So it really does have all ranges. A lot of the digital nomads here kind of they budget around, probably for a really nice Bali lifestyle, they budget around, say, 1,500 USD a month for everything, for electricity, for accommodation, for eating out, for partying, for their bike rental, their insurance, everything.
So you're saying in Bali you can live pretty large on 1,500 a month and go out every
Yeah.
night, eat, go to a bar, have a nice place to live, go to the beach. I mean, really have a great lifestyle for 1,500 a month.
Yeah, yeah, but also remember that it's depending where you go to. So, for example, our famous beer Bintang, that can be as cheap as 20,000 rupiah per bottle, which is about $1.40 USD. Right up to, if you're going to one of the high-end beach clubs, you might be paying like 70,000 rupiah a bottle of Bintang, which is, say around $5 USD. So it's also choosing where you go,
Sure.
because there is that. So sometimes everybody thinks everything's cheap in Bali. There's lots of cheap things in Bali, and you can eat really good food, really cheap, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that the expensive places don't exist also, because they do.
Yeah. So what does a meal cost? I mean, some of these, the food looks phenomenal out there. How much is it like a typical meal if you go out to a nice restaurant? Like,
Yeah. So if we go out to a nice restaurant, a main meal is usually between, say, $4 to $5 USD. But if you want to eat at some of the more local places, which we love the local cuisine, $1 to $2 USD for a meal, like a really decent meal with meat and vegetables and rice or noodles and crackers and things like that.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, food wise, you can really eat really cheap if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear, electricity is probably so a lot of places, if you're just monthly renting, your electricity might be included. If you're living here, obviously you're staying in somewhere longer term, so you have to pay it. I find the electricity probably one of the more expensive things on the island, compared to some of the other places. We've got quite a large villa, and we have a big pool and one smaller pool, so our electricity is big. We use air conditioning, but we probably spend around maybe 230 USD a month on electricity for our villa, which compared to what we pay for other things is actually more of an expense.
Yeah. What is your what is cell coverage if you get a cell phone over there?
So cell phones. So to buy cell phones, like say to buy an iPhone, it's exactly the same price, or if not a little bit, probably more expensive than what you guys pay in America. But the actual use for a phone plan and data, I spend about $7 USD a month for my plans.
Wow.
But yeah, the data and the phone calls are super cheap, super cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And the reception is actually surprisingly quite good. It's better than when I go back to Australia.
Yeah. Now, can you have like a villa there? Did you buy? Can you purchase over there? Or?
So you can't, as a foreigner, you can't what's called freehold, which means you can't own land here.
Okay.
So don't let people tell you that you can, because people will tell you that you can and you can't. And there's been a lot of foreigners ripped off over the years from not really understanding the rules properly in Indonesia. But you can take a long lease very safely. So lots of people will, if they're building, say they want to build a villa from scratch for them to live in, they will go to the landowner. They will negotiate a length of time to lease his or her land for. So you might lease it for 30 years with an option to extend another 30 years or whatever your deal is. And then you can build your villa. Knowing though, once your land lease expires, that physical building belongs to the landowner. It doesn't belong to you anymore. So what we did is we long leased an already built villa. So another foreigner had built it, was leaving the island, and he had 10 years left on his lease. So we bought that 10 years lease of him.
Gotcha.
And then other people you can rent yearly quite easily. And then especially during COVID and less travel, it's easier to pay monthly. Whereas before, if you wanted a long lease, not many landlords would accept monthly payments. If you rented for a year, you paid for a year straight up.
Okay. So it doesn't sound like you can invest in Bali and
You can invest, but it's a different mindset to probably what we're used to in the Western world, and we're used to owning land. It's a different mindset. People invest here and they make a lot of money, but I would never suggest anybody does that unless they know how to do business in Indonesia. Because
how do you invest if you can't buy property?
well, you invest, you make your lease so it's extendable, and you've got options in there to extend, right? So you have to reinvest on that land factor. Even our lease, what we've bought it for per year, if we wanted to move out and rent this yearly, we would probably triple our money.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay? So yeah, there's opportunities here, but it's also, you're in Asia, business is done very, very, very differently here.
Sure.
It's in another language, and I've seen so many foreigners lose a lot of money from coming here and going, oh, it's cheap and I want to live the dream and I want to buy a villa in Bali, and they don't really understand. So if you're thinking of doing that, come and spend time here, make friends with locals, make friends with other expatriates, and learn the law of the land before
Yeah.
you have any of your dollars.
Yeah, I can see where that would be advantageous for somebody such as yourself that grew up so close to Bali and you know it and you're familiar. And then you got expats coming from America, like you say, that have this idea, I want to live the dream. And you go there, you know nothing about it, but you have this money, you're going to throw it in here and you're going to invest, and then you have no concept of how anything works.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing. You really got to understand how these countries work before
Yeah.
you can
And
even dive in, because if you don't and you're really green, it's not smart.
no, and people looking to make money can sniff those people out very easily
I'm
and
Yeah.
tell them what they want to hear. And they go, oh, here's the document you need to sign. Oh, look, here's a translation into English. But if you get someone who can speak both languages, you're like, those two documents do not say the same
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right? So you need to establish channels of like who you can trust when it comes to doing business here, because I've seen it time and time again of people losing so much of their money.
Hmm. Okay. So, how about healthcare? So people are concerned always about healthcare. What's the healthcare like? Do you need to apply for some kind of a healthcare plan there, or can you just pay as you go?
You can pay as you go, but I would not suggest it. It's insanely expensive if you are a foreigner and you get really sick here and you need healthcare. I think I say to everyone, if you can afford health insurance to come here, you should not come here. Full stop. In Asia, you should always have a comprehensive either travel insurance. If you're coming for more of a longer term stay, there's really good digital nomad insurance now that you can have for moving around. Or of course, you can get which is more expensive but more comprehensive. You can get an expatriate insurance. So insurance is lots of different options for lots of different budgets. But you should not come here with at least not having emergency hospital cover, because your bills can end up in the hundreds of thousands of dollars very, very quickly if you have
Wow.
something serious.
So, okay. So it
Yeah.
sounds like it's almost like the US, where, you know, medical costs are out of control in this country. I mean, if somebody has any kind of surgery and something happens, you could be 150,000 in debt
Yeah.
in a snap.
So for locals, no, it's not like that. They have a different coverage. But as a foreigner, yes, you can rack up bills, and we see it happen all the time. People who come over here, even they have purchased a travel insurance, right? But they haven't read their product disclosure statement, and
Sure.
it doesn't cover them for riding a motorbike over here. Right. And then
Ah,
they have a motorbike accident, and then they go to the hospital and they need life-saving surgery, and their insurance says no, and the hospitals here will not operate on you without payment first.
okay. Wow. Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. That's an eye opener, because in other countries and some of the people that I've talked to, it's quite affordable, but it doesn't sound like it's the same in Bali. It sounds quite
Not
expensive.
if, not if it's an emergency. If it's just to see a doctor or go to a dentist, it's really cheap. And things, but when it comes to actually say you need to be airlifted out, or you need like a really specialist surgery, no, it's not. It's expensive as a foreigner.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you guys do do you go to Australia if anything comes up, or do you?
No, it depends. I mean, everybody used to think of Bali as not having very good healthcare, but since I don't know, did you know about the Bali bombings that happened back in 2012?
I
There
did.
was like and so lots of Australians were caught up in that. In fact, we were here on our honeymoon at the time. That then Australia poured a lot of money into the healthcare system in Bali, which helped. And then since then, Bali has like really good hospitals. There's a lot of good medical professionals here, and you can get, and in fact, dentistry is crazy cheap here. You definitely do not need dental cover if you want to come and get your teeth fixed. Lots of people actually have holidays to come to Bali to
Wow. Yeah.
get their dental procedures done.
Okay.
Can you hear those birds? They're really, really loud.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, they're just over there in my palm trees. But if it comes to like that emergency, you know, you need to get you've got a fractured skull or something like that, that can be really expensive. So if we have something like, we see dentists here, we see doctors here, you know, we have specialists here for, you know, my daughter had, you know, this funky thing happening with her ear, and the ear, nose, throat specialist fixed it here. We have our regular checkups here, but yeah, if we had a scheduled surgery, we'd probably go back to Australia to have it, rather than having it here. But yeah, it doesn't mean that you can't have it here. A friend of mine the other day, her heart gave way on her and she had to have a pacemaker put in here, and it was all fine.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is she from Australia or?
She is. She's lived here a very long time though. She's a lot older than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just woke up and her heart rate was super, super low, and she presented at the ER and they were like, you're basically, the battery in your heart is gone and we need to put you in ICU and you need a pacemaker.
Wow. And she's okay now.
Yeah. Now I'm back to seeing her down the beach every morning, walking down.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and that was only not so many weeks ago. So, but no, insurance is an absolute must. When you travel anywhere in Asia, you should have insurance.
And what do you guys have, a special insurance? Is it through Bali, or do you just have like, you know,
we use an expatriate insurance, but there's like, say you're a digital nomad and you want to go around like that, there's Safety Wings and Wild Nomads. They're both very well known insurances for people who are traveling around a lot. Of course, if you're just coming for a holiday, just take out a regular travel insurance, but make sure if you're going to do higher risk activities here, like riding a motorbike or whitewater rafting or things like that, make sure that your insurance covers you for those activities.
Okay. Good advice. Thank you. So getting around the island, you mentioned that there's, you know, people ride motorcycles, imagine scooters of all kinds. What's the main mode of transportation around the island, and is it easy to access all the other areas, like you mentioned, like some of the younger people, expats live over on this side of the island? Then you have, how long does it take to get to those different parts of the island for people that have never been to Bali?
People that have never been there, yeah. So where you land in Denpasar, which is really close to Kuta, anywhere in the south of Bali is really relatively quick to, like, we're 20 minutes from the airport. Canggu is about 30 minutes, 40 minutes from the airport. Seminyak's between 20 to 30 minutes from the airport. Ubud's about 45, 50 minutes from the airport. So anywhere down in the south area is really quite close. And all around that area of the south, you can use things like online applications like Gojek and Grab, which is just like Uber. And you can either order a motorcycle ride, like a scooter rider, or a car to pick you up. So it's up to you what you want to go on. Obviously, the scooter ones are cheaper and it's a quicker quicker commute, or a car, you know, you can feel safer, or more of you can go if it's a family. There's also tons of private drivers around, so it's nothing to like walk along a street and if you look like you're looking for something, a driver will just say, hey, do you want a driver? And you negotiate a price and jump in their car and you can go. You can rent a car and drive yourself. I wouldn't recommend that if you're not familiar with Asian traffic. And it's the same with scooters. Lots of people come here and they rent themselves scooters and they ride. Fine if you feel very comfortable in there is road rules here, but a person explained it very well when they say, you know, in say Australia, you drive with your head because you know the rules and you do that. In Bali, you need to drive or ride with your heart. You need to feel the traffic and you need to feel what people are doing. Hence why I don't do that. But my husband, he rides everywhere on his scooter, you know, and I feel quite comfortable getting in the back of his scooter, but it's not a place to come here and learn how to ride a motorbike or a scooter, you've got to feel pretty comfortable, and you have to make sure you are insured, because obviously that's, you know, it's a big cause of death over here
Sure.
is
Yeah.
having scooter accidents.
Yeah.
Um, when you go up further, up to the north, and some of the parts of the east, you need private transport up there. You can't get Uber, you can't get the grab and go jack up there, or taxis or anything like that. In saying that, there are tons of locals. Locals here are so entrepreneurial, and they're not above doing any job to make money, right? So they may work in the clothing market that's sitting there, but they see that you need a scooter ride somewhere. Yeah, they'll be more than happy to take some money from you to give you a lift, to give you a lift somewhere. And everywhere, whether you stay in somewhere cheap or expensive, they all have these huge local networks. So if you say, hey, I need a driver today to take me up to Lavina, they will just organize it for you and tell you how much it is. So
What's the typical cost?
so say you want a driver for a full 10-hour day, it's around about, say, $40 USD.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. How much
Yeah,
does it cost to rent a scooter for a day?
about $3 USD.
$3 for the day.
Yeah.
Wow. So most people probably don't even buy. They just probably rent month to month.
Yeah, well, it depends. If you're going to be here for a longer time, it's cheaper to, but once again, you can't actually, unless you've got a residence, if you've got a visa that you're a resident here, you can buy a scooter in your name or a car in your name. But if you don't have one of those visas, you actually can't even buy one in your name anyway.
I see. So you have
Yeah.
to show that you actually live there.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, and as far as like for people, and I'm sure you know a lot of like retirees that have moved there, and sometimes retirees are looking for things to do and ways to make money. Um, are there ways to make money in Bali for people that are just saying I want to retire, looking for something part time? You know how we do that in Australia. People do it in the U.S. Can they do that in Bali?
No, so legally you can't. There's very strict rules on your visa, and I get this question all the time, like, "Hey, I'm a barista, or I work in a hotel, and I want to come over and work in Bali." For starters, there is not many jobs for foreigners in Bali that foreigners are legally allowed to do. So most expatriates that you'll see over here are like me and have started our own companies. Right? You run your own company, as there, of course, are some roles in hotels here for foreigners, but only at very high level. Sales and marketing managers, general managers, not ever to work front desk. Foreigners are not allowed to do that here. So basically, there is any job that there is locals qualified to do here cannot be given to a foreigner.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
it leaves very few like jobs. There are teaching jobs. There's a lot of foreign teachers here, but most expatriates that live here have started their own companies. If you're a retiree and you come over and you're on a retiree visa, you absolutely cannot make money here.
Gotcha.
That does not allow you. You may be making money. Lots of people, a very gray area is the online world. So lots of people, yeah, they do stuff online to make money, whether it be teach English on apps like Powerfish,
Sure.
or maybe handling somebody's social media account or whatever. But it's a very gray area. It's a very talked about area here. I've been here a long time, and it's not even super clear for me.
Sure. Yeah.
So you do need to be careful with what you're doing, what you come over here and how you make money. You need to be careful, and you certainly should not be, if you're not on a working visa and a visa that allows you to work here, you should definitely never be taking money here in the country for anything,
Gotcha.
because that's the
Yeah.
very way to get yourself deported.
Okay. So, are the people that are the teachers that you mentioned that are over there, are they working in international schools? Or are they working in local schools?
No, so mostly in international schools, and some of them in what's called national plus schools. So there's the local schools, which is local teachers only, the national plus schools, which have a couple of foreign teachers, and then the international schools, which have a large percentage of foreign teachers teaching in there. So most of the teachers that I know work in the actual international schools here.
Gotcha. And those are all English usually, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but there's like the Japanese international school, there's an Indian international school, so they speak some of the native languages for their schools. But yeah, most international schools are in English, and then there's some dual language schools who do Indonesian and English.
Yeah. And you have a couple kids.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
How,
So I
how
have
old how old are they?
16 and 11.
11. Okay. And what's like a typical day for the kids on the island?
So, well, my kids, teaching was my career previous to owning Bali Buddies. And for me personally, when I came and looked at the schools, the international schools are good, but the expense is really high. You know, they range from around about, say, 8,000 USD per child per year, right up to around about 18,000 USD per child per year. And for me, I'm a fully qualified teacher of 15 years. And for me, I was like, I've got 2 kids. I'm not spending that money. I would rather spend that money on traveling with them. And because I still pay tax in Australia, we're entitled to our kids getting free education. So my kids do distance education to Australia, which means all the teachers in Australia at their school, but none of the students are. So the students may be in more remote parts of Australia, or they mightn't. Some of them are sports kids who compete at high levels, or they're actors, or they're living internationally, like my kids. So my kids, because their school's in Brisbane in Australia, they wake up at about between 5:30 and 5:45, and then they've got to be on their computer by 6 a.m. School
Wow.
starts 6 a.m. for them. So then they usually do their first block of school, 6 till 8, and then they'll stop and we'll all have break. I'll go down. My husband and I go walking down the beach every morning, and then we will come back, and then we're all kind of having breakfast in their first break, and then they go back to school for another couple of hours, and then they have another break, and then they usually have another hour of school. But they're finished. Some days they finish school at 10 a.m. Some days they finish school at 12 p.m. So school is definitely always done by 12 p.m. by lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending, of course, my eldest at 16, she has a lot of homework and a lot of assessment. But yeah, that they have activities nearly every day, whether it's jiu-jitsu or dancing or aerial silks.
And this is all online?
No. Their activities is out.
Okay. So they're okay.
So
Gotcha.
every afternoon they're out
Yeah.
doing their activities. So online school until lunchtime. Then just depending what the day is, we might go out for lunch, we might eat lunch in, we might go for a ride down the beach. Depends what I've got on with my work. I tend to try and work from home up until lunchtime and then schedule my meetings for the afternoon. And then their dad takes them off to all of wherever they need to go. And yeah, and so it can be a very mixed, random day. Dinners, we probably are half between cooking dinner and ordering dinner in, or going out to dinner. It actually ends up costing, we love to cook, but it costs us more to cook than it would to actually buy pre-cooked dinner. So we kind of just balance between that. And then, yeah, some days we have, sometimes the kids have to come with me to if we're reviewing something that's a kid's activity or whatever, they have to come and do it so that we can review it. So yeah, depending what we've got on.
Yeah. So like for people that want to live like you, like, and they go to Bali, I mean, what do they need to live comfortably? Like, let's say they have a child, or they have maybe 2 kids. They want to live comfortably. They want to be able to walk to the beach and, walk to their, various cafes and stores. How much would they need, do you think?
Okay, so
What's
if we
realistic?
take schooling out of the equation, because that can vastly change. That can vastly change things. So say you just want a really nice, livable villa, like really quite nice. Say you budget around 10,000 USD for say a 2 or 3 bedroom nice villa in a nice area for the year. Then, of course, you're going to have insurance expenses, which, depending on your circumstances, is probably going to be between, say, 2 to 4 USD a year, depending on your wages and everything like that. They're really important. And then your visas. So your biggest expenses when you come here is where you live, your insurance, your visa. Like for me, we're on what's called a KITAS visa, and for us to renew our visas every year is 5,000, say about 3,000 USD per year to renew our visas.
Is that for everybody?
No, that's for all of us. So that's for
All
4 of us.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, if you're going to send your child to a school, you're going to need to budget at least, if you want them to go to an international school, at least $7,000 per kid.
Yes. Sure. Yeah.
Kid.
Unless you teach there.
No, even if you're a teacher, you don't get free. You're free.
Kidding me. Your kids can't go there for free? Wow.
You get a discount, but you don't get it for free.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. Schooling is expensive. International schooling is expensive here. And I mean, that I'm quoting you the lower ranges. Like, a lot of Americans know about Green School here, which is it's a beautiful school in Ubud, all made of bamboo, and it's all based on sustainability, and it's open air. But the fees are per child, I think they're around about 20,000 USD per year.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're your big expenses. Things like food and transport, and pretty much you're always going to have staff in your villa, like doing your housekeeping.
If you broke it down per month, what would it be per month?
So we're talking about
like a family. Yeah.
Adults, say 1 kid.
Let's say like a child.
With school, international school.
There are so many. Yeah. There's so many qualifiers, right? It's hard to do. It really is.
People ask me these questions all the time. People ask me this question. If you ask me what we budget for a year for 4 of us, which includes like entertainment, and so we don't have a school cost, but we live quite a large life here. We live on, including some travel and some holiday and stuff like that, we probably live on around about say 70,000 Australian dollars per year, which is, what's that? That's about, say, 50,000, 48,000 USD.
Yeah,
but
probably.
You can live a lot cheaper lifestyle than that too.
Yeah. You guys are living large.
We're living large. Like, we live in a villa with 2 pools. We're living, but if I compare that to our lives in Australia, we lived a much smaller life for about almost triple the cost in Australia.
Right. Yeah.
So it really depends what you want to do, how you want to get around, what you want to eat. If you want to eat, I budget for us because we eat out and we come in, I budget for us, a few $100s a week on food, because I like to buy imported food or whatever. But if you wanted to, you could probably, you could feed a family for $50 a week easily.
Yeah.
So that's when you have to be clear about what type of lifestyle you want to have when you come here. And this is what I find a lot of people who move here. You can live very well, very cheaply here, but you can't compare it when you're looking at somebody's life who's going to resorts and who's going to beach clubs and who's going, because that adds up really quickly. And then I always like to say, the job I'm in, I get to experience 5-star Bali all the time because of my job, not because I'm paying for it. It's part of what I work. But I love 2-star Bali. Like, I love going down to Legian Beach and ordering a mie goreng, which is a fried noodle, and having a bintang, and it costing me, the whole day I would barely spend $10 USD to stay on the beach all day, have a couple of drinks, hire a boogie board, and go out surfing. I love that just as much as I love experiencing the 5-star side of it.
Hmm.
You can have like and it's, Legian Beach is beautiful and you get an amazing sunset and it's really fun and there's lots of fun people around. You got the beautiful water, but you have to be clear about what you want to do. Bali can be full of contradictions in that way. Some things are so cheap, and then other things can quite surprise you with
Yeah.
the price.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard. The biggest question I get asked all the time, especially my Aussie friends, is like, I want to come and live in Bali. How much is it going to cost me? And
Mm.
I was like, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live when you're
Sure.
here? Do
Yeah.
you want to send your kid to a school? Do you want to rent a car every week? Do you want to live in a fancy villa, or do you want to live in a quaint homestay?
Yeah.
What types of food do you want to eat?
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of qualifiers there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys, you said do you surf yourself?
I don't, I mean, I can do a little bit of surfing, but no, where we live, so outside of the island, Sanua, we've got the Calm Beach. It's not a surf beach, which we kind of love because it's really protected us. I mean, I love the surfy crowd, but it's protected us from becoming a party part of the island, because
Mhm.
with the surfy crowd often comes along the party
Yeah.
crowd, and you have noisy nightclubs beside you and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
No, I like snorkeling. Like I said, we're getting into diving now. I like stand-up paddle boarding. I like the more calmer. I like them.
That's what happens when you have kids. I mean, 20 years ago, when we didn't have the kids, we'd be on the other side of the island. But now
Yeah,
we're
and
looking
like
for that calm.
exactly. It's so true. It's so true. And I mean, I was in Canggu last night. I love to go over there for the really fun party vibes and to go out to dinner. But I also love to come back here to Sanua and wake up and, be able to stroll my way down the street or ride my bicycle around, which you cannot do over that side of the island because the traffic's too crazy.
Yeah. Is there a lot of do you get involved in yoga, meditation? Is there a lot of that where you're
Oh,
at?
there's so much of that here. We've got a beautiful yoga shala just down the road from me, which is a big bamboo structure that's right on the beach. It's everywhere. Like every time we go and stay at a resort or something, we will do yoga there too, because they were always offering it. Bali is a hugely spiritual place, and part of the reason a lot of people fall in love with Bali is the big religion here is Hindu. And a lot of Americans know it from Julia Roberts' Eat, Pray, Love movie.
Yeah.
And in fact, Bali's, percentage of American visitors after that movie skyrocketed, because lots of people before that didn't really know Bali as much. It's a hugely spiritual place, and things like every morning when I go outside my gate, the landowner has left little offerings outside our gate every morning, and depending on what day it is, there might be more offerings or less offerings depending on what they're praying for that day. And you see those offerings all over the island, like everywhere you go. You'll always see the beautiful, colorful Hindu ceremonies. It's nothing for us to be down the beach and see bodies being burnt, because the way they do their cremations, like where we walk down the beach, that's where it happens, and you just literally seeing it happen. But it's a very spiritual place, and quite often that really parlays into people who are into yoga and meditation, because a lot of the experiences that the Balinese do are really, really interesting. They do a purification ritual every 6 months that they believe rids the body of any negative energy, allowing you to receive positive energy. And what that looks like is, it's quite fascinating to do it yourself, right? Because the spot where I like to go and do it is they take you down into this canyon of a waterfall, and it starts at one spot, and you've got to, there's rules, right? You've got to sip the water this many times and tap it on the back that many times. And then you've got to think about health in this one spot. Then you go to another spot and you get this water poured on your head. You're thinking about maybe family, and then you go to another spot and you're thinking about money, and you go to another spot, and then you make your way up until you're actually up into the waterfall, banging down on your head, and then you just got to scream as loud as you can for as long as you can, 3 times, and then you get to the top, and then the priestess blesses you and gives you your blessing, and then that's your purification ritual.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Balinese there's so much culture and tradition, and it's really fascinating. And it's probably, of all the religions, probably one of the most dedicated. the amount of ceremonies they have, and the amount of money and time and effort that is dedicated towards their religion every day is quite fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I was going to ask you, take me through the process, and you did, and it sounds really awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. So, in fact, one of my so the Balinese, their favorite place in the world is generally their village. So quite often they have their like home village, and then as they get older and they go to university, they move down to the touristic areas to get a job per se, and they so their favorite area is their village. So whenever they have time off, they go back to their village. And one of my good friends here said he's been in tourism for a long time. And he's like, Karlie, I just want to spend more time in my village. So I helped him create what we call the village experience. And I said to him, take me to your village and show me everything you love about it. And so he took me here, he took me there. And I was like, look, this is really interesting to people. Give them a day of what it's like to be a villager. Bring them through your big family compound and explain that, there can be 50 of you here at any one time, and they have their own temple, and show them the foods you eat and serve them some of your foods, and then take them for a purification ritual, teach them how to make the offerings that the ladies make every day. And then you make these offerings, and then they take you to the waterfall, and then you go and offer them to the gods and have your purification ritual. And it's a real insight into to what it's like to be a Balinese.
Sign me up. I'd be first in line for that.
Well, tell me when you come, I will hook you up. It's a really lovely experience. You can watch a video of it on our website. Actually, if you look up Balinese village experience, you'll see it. You'll see the footage of the waterfall and things
On
like that.
Bali Buddies.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
called the Balinese village experience.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Karlie. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information, your insights around Bali. I definitely want to visit, and when I do, I'd love to meet you and
Sure. Send me a message.
check out the sites. It'd be absolutely fantastic. But thank you
Yes.
so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before um, we
No, I
go?
don't think so. I think like we have, like I said, we consider balibuddies.com to be our insider's guide to Bali. Jump on there. There is literally tons of information on there, right down to what scams to avoid to make sure you don't get ripped off when you when you come here. Because if you've ever traveled in Asia, there are always different scams to make money from tourists. So we kind of list them all on there to help you on your way there. We tell you safe ways to get around. We list all the best waterfalls and all the best beaches and all the best places to stay. So really, honestly, we've poured our heart and soul into making, to helping people be able to enjoy the Bali experience that they want to have on there.
Fantastic. Well, Karlie Cummins, thank you so much for being with us. And
My
guys,
pleasure.
check out balibuddies.com, BALIBUDDIES.com. And it's the online magazine all about Bali. Thanks so much again for being with us. I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure for having me.
Have a great day.
Bye.